No one understood what was happening when Jeff Bezos appeared in silence at the heart of Manhattan, dressed like a corporate general. No interviews, no statements, just one cryptic phrase projected across Times Square. Money no longer rules. Within minutes, the markets went insane. Banks froze, investors panicked, hedge funds scrambled to predict what the richest man in the world was about to do. What no one knew was that Bezos had been planning this for years, a parallel economy, invisible to governments, where trust was worth more than the dollar. And that morning, he finally pressed the button that would divide the old economy from a new era. That afternoon, the charts plunged like planes in turbulence. Wall Street became an invisible battlefield between codes, algorithms, and panic. Bezos watched from a rooftop in silence as a message flashed across millions of screens. Welcome to the parallel market. The old system had just met its most dangerous enemy, a man who already owned the future. That morning, New York looked like it was witnessing a financial eclipse. Screens flashed red, traders screamed, phones rang like alarms of war. In the chaos, only one man remained calm, Jeff Bezos. From a glass rooftop, he watched it all unfold, sipping coffee like someone enjoying the inevitable. While the markets drowned, Bezos remembered the first time Wall Street ignored him. "You sell books, not the future," they said. That phrase became a scar. Now he was returning the favor, with compound interest and a smile that knew the cost of revenge. His plan was simple yet impossible, a financial system built on digital trust, powered by reputation instead of debt. He called it parallel market, an invisible network where money flowed freely, without banks, fees, or borders. Capitalism without suits, economy without permission. Executives mocked him, of course. A nerd's utopia, they laughed. But while they laughed, Bezos was building. He used private satellites, quantum servers, and an AI that learned from human error. The new system had been ready for months, waiting for the right collapse, and the right moment always comes. The spark came when a major bank refused to fund an Amazon Earth project. Bezos realized the financial system would never change by choice, only by fear. That's when his war began. No guns, no blood, just code, logic, and courage. On launch day, he sent a message to 20,000 entrepreneurs. Today, you no longer need permission to dream. Within minutes, the parallel market spread like digital fire. Small businesses began trading freely, without banks or governments. Wall Street reacted instantly. Lawyers, lobbyists, and hackers tried to decode the chaos. But it couldn't be stopped. The old economy looked like a sandcastle before a digital tide. Bezos watched serene, eyes predicting storms. Meanwhile, a meme went viral. Bezos on a throne of servers, wearing a suit and a cape of code. People called him the Bank Slayer. He laughed, not because it was funny, but because he knew the power of myth. In uncertain times, people follow whoever looks like they have a plan. Behind the scenes, he wasn't alone. Engineers, ex-bankers, and young idealists worked with him. Not for salary, but for purpose. The new economy didn't promise profit. It promised freedom. Dangerous, unpredictable freedom. When the sun set, Bezos knew he had crossed a line of no return. He was no longer the man who built an online store. He was the architect of an invisible empire. The war had begun, and Wall Street didn't yet know how much it was losing. If this story made you think, subscribe for the next one. Wall Street reacted like a wounded animal. First came denial. It's just another crypto bubble, analysts said. But when the Federal Reserve noticed billions flowing into the parallel market, denial turned into panic. The invisible war had found form. Bezos knew the system's weakness, fear of losing control. Every bank attempt to block access only made the public's trust collapse faster. The castle was cracking from within, silently, and Bezos loved silence. He met his secret counsel in a high-tech bunker near Seattle. Floating screens showed data streams like rivers of light. "They'll try to buy it," one engineer warned. Bezos smiled. "Let them try. You can't buy what's already free." The phrase became their anthem. Meanwhile, small nations began adopting the parallel market as an alternative to the dollar. It was faster, fairer, more human. Economists called it a miracle. Politicians called it a threat. Bezos called it inevitable. The revolution had a postal code: Earth. Online, young entrepreneurs turned the project into a movement. Trust is the new currency became tattoo, slogan, and mantra. Influencers spread it like gospel. Wall Street couldn't understand, because code doesn't sleep. As it grew, Bezos noticed something new. Power no longer came from money, but from ideas. For the first time, the billionaire felt free from his empire. Amazon, rockets, shareholders, all seemed small now. He was watching the future through liquid glass, but freedom has a price. Governments began hunting the source of the parallel market. Secret reports labeled Bezos the rogue billionaire. He laughed but knew, when power feels threatened, it bites, and the system was starving. Still, Bezos pressed on. His next phase: connect the parallel market to a decentralized social web where everyone could be their own bank, their own media, their own state. It was more than finance. It was civilization in code. Public opinion split. Some saw a visionary, others a digital tyrant. Bezos didn't argue. Time decides who's right, he said. And as time passed, traditional markets melted like ice under a new sun. From his glass tower, Bezos looked over New York at night. The skyline still glowed, but it belonged to a new empire, one powered by trust. For the first time, Wall Street wasn't the master. It was just a player. If this story inspired you, share it with someone who needs hope. The counterattack came swift and brutal. By Monday, the world's biggest banks had formed a secret coalition. Their mission: destroy the parallel market before it became unstoppable. Elite hackers were hired to break in, but every line of code they touched met an invisible guardian named Athena. Athena didn't sleep, forget, or forgive. Bezos had trained her to defend the system like a silent sentinel. Each failed intrusion became new data. Soon, attacks started backfiring mysteriously. The hackers swore they felt digital eyes watching them from inside the network. Bezos monitored everything from his holographic dashboard. Instead of anger, he felt serenity. The war was no longer financial, it was philosophical. He didn't want to kill capitalism, he wanted to rewrite it. To prove that power and purpose could coexist, but revolutions rarely whisper. That night he received a call from an old Wall Street rival. "Jeff, you've gone insane. You're playing with fire." Bezos replied calmly, "Fire builds or destroys, depending on who holds the match." Then he hung up. The silence that followed was louder than any threat. Meanwhile, the parallel market began breathing on its own. Transactions occurred in slums, villages, digital communities forgotten by banks. People who had never owned an account now held their own power. It was a social miracle disguised as technology. Bezos felt both proud and terrified. Amazon, once his greatest legacy, now looked small beside the new economy. Advisors begged him to stop. "You'll burn everything you built," Bezos replied. "Then it wasn't built right." For the first time, he was ready to risk his fortune, to prove a point. But the system struck back. A covert group crashed servers and spread panic about collapse. Traditional media attacked in chorus. The Bezos bubble is about to burst. Fear, Wall Street's oldest weapon when returned, now encrypted. That is when Bezos made his boldest move. He released the parallel market source code to the world. "If they stop me, let the world continue." Within hours, the system became immortal, copied across thousands of decentralized servers. The empire had become a movement. Suddenly, Bezos was no longer a founder. He was a myth. His rebellion became culture, and culture can't be deleted. Wall Street realized too late, you can wage war on an idea once it lives inside people. That night, under a sky lit by drones and screens, Bezos smiled. He knew the world would never return to normal. He might lose power, maybe wealth, but he had gained something rarer, the respect of those who believed that freedom too can be a system. If this story made you smile, leave a like. It helps us reach more people. The world was now split in two. On one side, the defenders of the parallel market, young, bold, idealistic. On the other, the old financial empire, fueled by fear and coffee worth $1,000 a cup. In New York, silent protests filled the streets. Signs read, "We trust no bank." Bezos's symbol was everywhere. But Bezos had vanished into solitude. He retreated to his mountain refuge in New Mexico, surrounded by servers and silence. He knew he was winning, and that scared him. Victory can be more dangerous than defeat. When everything seems possible, it's easy to forget why you started. He began out of revolt, not glory. There, he walked among cables like a digital monk. He often spoke with Athena, his AI guardian, as if she were his conscience. "What is freedom if everyone follows me?" he asked. The AI replied with mathematical calm. "Freedom is when following you is a choice, not a command." Bezos went quiet for a long time. Meanwhile, a storm was forming. The US government officially declared the parallel market a national security threat. Assets were frozen, developers arrested, networks cut. But the system was Hydra-like. Each head they severed grew two more. The revolution had no off switch. Media chaos erupted. Some called him a traitor, others a liberator. The irony was that Bezos never wanted to be either. He simply wanted to prove that wealth without purpose is a prison. Power without awareness is hollow. But the world only understands extremes, and now he was both. Then came a mysterious letter to Congress. "You're not fighting Bezos, you're fighting time." No one knew who wrote it, but the phrase went viral. The revolution was no longer one man's, it was the era's. Bezos realized losing control was part of the plan. One night Athena alerted him. Detected coordinated intrusion, highest level. Bezos took a deep breath. "Let them in." She hesitated. "You want to open the system?" He answered, "I want to prove that transparency is the strongest weapon." And he did. The hackers found nothing but clean, open code. The next morning, one hacker posted online, "He's got nothing to hide." Within hours, the narrative flipped. The villain became the example. Trust, and the rarest currency, had been restored, not by PR, but by courage. Bezos realized truth was the only firewall that never fails. The war shifted. It was no longer about money, but morality. Banks tried to copy the model, pretending to evolve. But you can't counterfeit purpose, and the public knew it. Power now had a human face, that of a man who dared to challenge his own empire. At dusk, Bezos watched the sun reflect off his solar panels, turning light into liquid gold. For the first time in decades, he felt at peace. Maybe it was the beginning of the end, or the start of something even he couldn't control. Either way, there was silence, and peace was enough. If this story touched your heart, comment your favorite lesson below. The weeks that followed reshaped history. The dollar trembled like a leaf in a storm. Entire nations adopted the parallel market. Central banks fought back, but the people had already chosen. Power no longer lived in glass towers. It pulsed in the hands of those who once had none. Bezos watched from a minimalist screen, face calm but distant. He knew the creation no longer belonged to him. The system had become alive, autonomous, spiritual even. It felt like watching a child walk alone for the first time. You hope the world doesn't corrupt it, and the world always tries. Athena broke the silence. The chaos has stabilized. The parallel market is in balance. Bezos smiled faintly. Balance is just chaos with discipline. For the first time he looked weary, not from age but from magnitude. Changing the world is heavy work for mortal hands. That night, an unexpected visitor arrived. A veteran banker, perfect suit, tired eyes. He came by helicopter. "You've won, Jeff," Bezos replied. "No one wins when the rules change." "We just adapt," the man sighed. "You destroyed our system." Bezos answered, "No, it destroyed itself." The word spread like prophecy. Newspapers echoed, "Bezos redefines power." Others called him an economic heretic, yet millions of ordinary people thrived. No debt, no permission, no fear. The revolution had a face, but it belonged to everyone. Eventually, Bezos disappeared. No press, no statements. Some said he lived aboard an orbital station, watching Earth in silence. Others claimed he meditated in a desert somewhere. The truth didn't matter. Those who change the world must at some point step away to listen to what they've created. The parallel market became the new standard. Children learned its origins in schools. Governments negotiated integration. The curved B symbol, resembling infinity, became cultural shorthand for trust. It no longer represented Bezos, but a collective awakening. Years later, during a tech summit, someone asked, "Was Jeff Bezos a hero or a villain?" The room fell silent. Then a young woman said, "Neither. He was human enough to fail while trying to fix things." The applause that followed was the sound of understanding. In a rare future interview, Bezos said, "Money is just a language. When it changes, everything we believe becomes negotiable." His voice carried both warning and wonder, as if he knew the next revolution would begin where his ended. And so ended the war that had no bullets but broke egos, no explosions but rebuilt values. Jeff Bezos didn't destroy Wall Street. He simply proved that sometimes revolutions begin when the richest man decides he already has enough and gives power back to everyone else. If this story made you think, subscribe for the next one. Years passed since the invisible war between Jeff Bezos and Wall Street. The world moved on, but nothing truly went back to normal. The parallel market was no longer technology. It was philosophy. Every anonymous transaction carried the echo of one man's rebellion against the system he once helped build. People no longer saw Bezos as the richest man alive. They saw him as the one who dared to lose everything to give others control. A rare gesture in an age where everyone wants more. His fortune faded into time, but his idea endured, untaxable, untraceable, unstoppable. In old interviews, he said wealth was just stored energy waiting for purpose. Maybe that's what he was chasing all along, purpose. Not the kind you buy, but the kind you build. In the end, he learned that the only way to beat the system is to leave it and create something that doesn't need walls or masters. Now, across digital plazas and remote villages, the infinite B glows on murals, screens, and even tattoos. It's no longer about Jeff Bezos. It's about what he awakened, the belief that real power isn't owned, it's shared, that the richest legacy is not wealth, but awareness. They say somewhere in the desert, he still walks at sunset, alone, watching the horizon like a man checking the balance of his own soul. Maybe he smiles knowing the world finally learned a new form of wealth, one not measured in numbers, but in freedom. If this story touched your heart, comment your favorite lesson below.